Good evening. You're watching Nation at 9. I'm Neha Khanna. Our big focus tonight. It's a country that never learns. Its brazenness and incorrigibility astounding but unsurprising. Even after being embarrassed and shamed internationally following the International Court of Justice's ruling in the Kulbushan Jadhav case, which was overwhelmingly in favour of India, Pakistan remains defiant, saying we don't need to abide by the World Court's verdict. This is a matter of our internal national security and we will do what we have to. This comes on a day when former Pakistan President Pervez Musharraf, the architect of the Kargil war, had the audacity to compare Kulbushan Jadhav to Ajmal Kasab, the face of the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks responsible for the brutal deaths of so many innocent people. And that's not all. This comes amidst another major development. The judge presiding over the farcical 26/11 trial in Islamabad has been transferred yet again. 9 judges being transferred in less than 8 years. Shameless as it may be, Pakistan needs to wake up to its growing international isolation. The latest evidence of that, just days after the ICJ verdict, is the ongoing Arab-NATO Islamic summit in Riyadh, where US President Donald Trump is set to meet the leader of practically every participating nation except Pakistan. And so the question we're asking tonight is this: is Pakistan increasingly becoming a global pariah? And is it time to make Pakistan pay?
मुल्क के जितने कवानीन हैं जहाँ डेथ पेनल्टी अलाउड है उसको ओवरराइड नहीं कर सकते. अगर हमारे कवानीन के मुताबिक किसको डेथ पेनल्टी मिलती है तो दे कांट नलीफाई इट. इट्स नॉट ए कोर्ट ऑफ अपील. देयरफॉर दैट आई जस्ट मेंशन कि उनकी जो अर्जेंसी थी दैट इज बिकॉज दे हैव जनरली वेरी सेंसिटिव टू राइट टू लाइफ. नलीफाइड इट्स नॉट ए कोर्ट ऑफ अपील. देयरफॉर दैट आई जस्ट मेंशन कि उनकी जो अर्जेंसी थी दैट इज बिकॉज दे हैव जनरली वेरी सेंसिटिव टू राइट टू लाइफ एज वेल एज द डेथ पेनल्टी.
This is what Sartaj Aziz have to say today after the loss of face for Pakistan at the World Court. From first stating that the ICJ has no jurisdiction in the Kulbhushan Jadhav case, to then stating that Pakistan will appeal against the ruling given by the World Court, to now openly taking a defiant stand that Pakistan need not adhere to the International Court of Justice's verdict.
First, Pakistan was snubbed by International Court of Justice on the issue of Kulbushan Jadhav. Now, Sartaj Aziz came out today and he clearly hinted that Pakistan may not abide with the ruling of International Court of Justice and they might go on to hang Kulbushan Jadhav.
But Pakistan's duplicitous stand does not end here. Comparing the incomparables, former Pak President General Pervez Musharraf compared Jadhav to Ajmal Kasab in many ways, for the first time admitting that Ajmal Kasab, who wreaked terror in Mumbai, was a Pakistani national.
अजमल कसाब एक कौन था? एक आदमी था जो टेररिज्म कर रहा है. ये तो दर्जनों लोगों से टेररिज्म करवा रहा है. आई मीन हु इज अ बिगर कल्प्रिट? आई मीन वी मस्ट नो दैट. ऑब्वियसली ये यादव उससे को 10 गुना ज्यादा बड़ा कल्प्रिट है. इसने तो मालूम नहीं कितने लोग मरवा दिए होंगे थ्रू बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट और ये सैबोटाज एक्टिविटीज.
While Jadhav on the one hand was sentenced by a military kangaroo court in Pakistan, Ajmal Kasab was given a fair trial. But the 26/11 trial in Pakistan has been nothing short of a miscarriage of justice, with 9 judges having changed in the span of the last 8 years.
I think the world will take note of it that Pakistan has no intention of bringing to book people who planned and masterminded the Bombay attack of 26/11 in 2008. There is no doubt on that.
It looks like that Pakistan is not serious, and if every year judge is being changed, it definitely brings discontinuity in the whole process of legal system. And we only hope that this doesn't hinder the process of justice in Pakistan.
So is it any wonder that Pakistan has turned into a pariah state on the world stage? At the Arab-Islamic American Summit, which is presently underway in Saudi Arabia, US President Donald Trump will meet with the heads of most other states participating there, but will not hold any bilateral talks with Pakistan. So perhaps one way in which Pakistan can expect to be taken seriously on the world stage is to begin by respecting and adhering to the world institutions. The case of Kulbhushan Jadhav could be a starting point. Bureau Report, NewsX.
Well, so the big question we need to ask is just what do you do with a country that is not shamed by anything at all? Nothing seems to make any difference to Pakistan. To discuss that, we are joined by Major General K.K. Sinha, defense expert, here with me in the studio. Sudesh Verma, BJP spokesperson, also here with me in the studio. Bhaswati Mukherjee, former diplomat, joining us from the capital. We are also joined from Mumbai by Priyanka Chaturvedi, spokesperson for the Congress. And a bit later on the show, we are also hoping to be joined by Arslan Bhatti, Pakistani journalist. All right, Ms. Mukherjee, let me begin with you. Now, we've seen the various flip-flops by Pakistan in the Kulbushan Jadhav case. First, they questioned the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice. Then they urged the court to rehear the entire case. Today, they actually went so far as to say, we don't need to abide by this ruling. We have our own judicial system, which we will go by. Now, the question really is, ma'am, when will Pakistan realize that it's increasingly being viewed as a rogue country that has no regard for justice, human rights, any international treaty, or global institutions like the International Court of Justice? Is Pakistan not worried at all about losing even the modicum of credibility that it may be left with?
Neha, despite the state of self-denial of the Pakistani deep state, they are fully aware that having gone to ICJ and having tried to put up that pathetic defense, they are now bound by the jurisdiction. Moreover, what is very significant, which has not been commented upon, is that there is also a Chinese judge in the ICJ. And it was a unanimous verdict. So it's not going to be so simple for the Pakistanis to take it so lightly. Because if it will go to the Security Council, I'm sure India will point out that it was a unanimous verdict which included a Chinese judge.
You're making a valid point, but the worry about the United Nations Security Council is the fact that the China veto comes into the picture. But ma'am, if I may ask you very quickly, you don't believe that Pakistan will actually go ahead and execute Jadhav till such time as the ICJ gives its final ruling. But do you think that the statements that are emerging from Islamabad then amount to just empty bravado? Because that's what we've heard Sartaj Aziz say today, that we are not bound by this ruling. What do you make of those statements?
It is just... But Neha, this is the same Sartaj Aziz who contradicted himself earlier when he said no evidence against him. So, I'm sure Sartaj Aziz is extremely embarrassed and he must have been criticized within Pakistan. I think that the Pakistanis are extremely embarrassed. They are trying to save their face. They know fully well that outside the death penalty is frowned upon. It is extremely unlikely that in the final judgment they will uphold death penalty against death penalty. The Pakistanis know that, and especially when it's a kangaroo court where due process was not observed. Somebody had rightly pointed out earlier, your news bureau, that Ajmal Kasab was given a fair trial. He was very fairly treated. He was given biryani at taxpayers' expense. Here we don't even know where our man is.
And that's my next question,
so there's no comparison.
Absolutely, that is my next question. Let me bring General Sinha in. Absolutely, ma'am. That's my next question. Let me bring General Sinha in. So, former Pakistan President Pervez Musharraf, who of course, as we all know, was also the architect of the Kargil war, has the audacity to, draw this artificial equivalence between India and Pakistan by comparing Kulbushan Jadhav to Ajmal Kasab, the face of the 26/11 Mumbai terror attacks, the man who was responsible for the brutal deaths of so many innocent people. The question is, how delusional is Pakistan?
Neha, when you hear President Musharraf, I have seen in Kargil war, this guy, you just can't believe him. This guy is sitting not in his country and making a statement.
But in self-imposed exile in London, he does not have the guts to go back to his home country and face the law there.
Neha, this guy to save his life, he was, pleading to the colonel and brigadiers of 121 brigade when he has to, fly away from Pakistan. Now this guy sitting somewhere in exile, he is making a statement. He is the same chap. A number of international and national TV channel have been saying Kasab is not a Pakistani national. And today he has got audacity to compare the same guy with our Indian men whom the whole country is backing. and with a loud and clear saying that he is Indian national, and we are fighting this case in International Court of Justice, where all 11 members unanimously has given the interim verdict in the favor of India.
But the big question still remains, will Pakistan comply with this order, or will it display utter brazenness and go ahead and defy it? All right, let me bring in Sudesh Verma into the conversation at this point. Mr. Verma, in his over-enthusiasm to draw an artificial equivalence between India and Pakistan, hasn't Pervez Musharraf actually finally officially admitted that Kasab was indeed a Pakistani national, something that Pakistan has actually been in denial about all these years?
Exactly. This is what General Sinha pointed out, and absolutely is coming from a former, chief of Pakistan, President of Pakistan. Nothing can be more concrete proof than this. And Pakistan should now, learn its lesson from what Musharraf is saying. General Musharraf is saying.
So
now,
clearly Pakistan is tying itself up in knots.
And Neha, believe me, Pakistan is in a difficult situation for the simple fact that you send a barrister to defend your case. Had Pakistan won this case, then what would have been their stand? And then you are saying that you will go again to review the decision.
And now they've replaced their legal team.
Which means that you accept the verdict of the International Court. Otherwise, you will not say we'll go and file a review petition and all these things. And you are bound by what the International Court of Justice has said.
Right.
Don't try to test the strength of the world order. ICJ is world reflection of the world order. It's a UN mandated International Court of Justice. It's not just one country. And don't underestimate the might of India. India, which can knock at the door of ICJ to expose you in the night and get a verdict in favor of Kulbushan Jadhav, can do much more.
Absolutely. All right, we're still waiting for our Pakistani guest to join us for a response to a series of questions really that have arisen from Pakistan's conduct and the various objectionable statements that have been emanating. Questions really that have arisen from Pakistan's conduct and the various objectionable statements that have been emanating from there. But let me bring in Priyanka Chaturvedi at this point. Priyanka, you heard what the other panelists said. Now, we also know about the farce called the 2611 trial that is currently being conducted in Pakistan. Why are we talking about it today? Because 9 judges have been transferred in the last 8 years, the 9th one being transferred just recently. And India keeps giving dossier after dossier on Hafiz Saeed and Zakir Rahman Lakhvi, and yet Pakistan claims it's not enough, there isn't enough evidence. We know there's been a total miscarriage of justice. And then you have people like Musharraf who have the temerity to compare Jadhav with Kasab. But look at the 2 cases, Priyanka. Jadhav has been sentenced to death by a kangaroo court with no credible evidence against him. And Kasab who had the blood of scores of innocent people on his hands, was caught literally with a smoking gun, yet India ensured that the man got a fair trial. So the question is, will Pakistan manage to fool anybody with the kind of arguments that it makes?
Firstly, Pakistan has no credibility in the eyes of the world as far as addressing terrorism concerns is concerned. Whether it was finding Osama bin Laden on their territory, or whether it gives accommodation to people like Hafiz Saeed. So they have no credibility in the eyes of the world, and ICJ order just goes on to prove that. Having said that, this comparison coming from Pervez Musharraf just goes on to show something which is so radically unbelievable in that nation, that they continue to live in denial of the facts that exist on ground in Pakistan. Here you have an Indian national who is a businessman, who is doing honest business work in Iran, who is kidnapped from Iran by Taliban and handed over to Pakistani forces. They carry out some sham trial which goes against the conventions of even any elected government of any country.
Right.
And then they go on to make a case out of it in ICJ. So that is point 1. Here India is fighting for its Indian citizen who was doing business in Iran and forcibly abducted by Pakistan and is being called a spy.
Right, and those people don't even acknowledge their own nationals. Absolutely.
Exactly. You have a terrorist who comes inside our country, who uses his gun, who shoots down our people, who we give him a fair trial because that is the norm that any democratic nation in the world faces or conducts itself in. and yet they continue to make that comparison, shows exactly where the flaw lies in Pakistan.
Absolutely. Ms. Mukherjee, let me come back to you at this point. Now, for a while now, India has been making consistent efforts to internationally isolate Pakistan. Every time there's been a terror attack on our soil, we've made efforts in that direction. Recently, of course, Pakistan has received a major snub and embarrassment at the international level thanks to the ICJ ruling that went overwhelmingly in our favor. But now take the case of the Arab-NATO summit that's currently underway in Riyadh. Now, you have a situation where Pakistan has been openly lobbying for a one-on-one meeting with President Donald Trump, and yet we believe that there is no such meeting scheduled between the two leaders, despite the fact that Trump is going to meet every other leader present there at that summit. Now, isn't that another huge snub for Pakistan? And does that now, in your view, come as further evidence that Pakistan is now perhaps increasingly becoming a global pariah? Of course, it's China's support for it notwithstanding.
Neha, you're spot on. They have become an international pariah. It is very significant that Sharif could not get that meeting, considering his very warm relations with the Saudis. After all, he spent exile over there. So this is a clear signal coming from the Americans that Pakistan is increasingly isolated, and at this point, President Trump does not feel that there is any advantage in a photo op, because it would have been a photo op. They begged for a 1-minute meeting and a handshake, which he didn't get. So this is coming after the ICJ judgment. This is greater humiliation for them. I also wanted to add that as far as Ajmal Kasab was concerned, Ajmal Kasab case also showed that Pakistan has this habit of just abandoning its nationals.
Absolutely. Whether it was during the Kargil war or whether it was...
And now this Musharraf is making this comparison. He is accepting the nationality.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So, I mean, this just goes to show that Musharraf has also really lost it, frankly. He's lost it.
And fact of the matter is, the man, I think, lost his credibility a long time ago. As he said, he is living in self-imposed exile in London. He does not have the guts to go back to his own country and face the law there.
Long time ago.
Exactly. All right. General Sinha, come in here at this point. Now,
he does not have the guts, and he has no business to speak on this subject.
Absolutely. I think he's one loose cannon that even the people of Pakistan stopped taking seriously a long time ago. But General Sinha, come in here. Now, if you juxtapose these two significant events, the fact that the ICJ ruled in favor of India, the ruling coming as a major embarrassment for Pakistan, and now you have a situation where Nawaz Sharif is present in Riyadh at that NATO Arab summit. Donald Trump is present there. He's going to meet the leader of every other participating country except Pakistan. Fact of the matter is, Pakistan is being snubbed. It is being isolated. But when will Pakistan wake up? That is really the question that we need to ask.
Yeah, your question is wonderful. Let me explain it to you a little bit. Compulsion of Americans and also the Pakistan. See, as per this snub, which they got it, and the Pakistan was trying from back door to evoke and have a meeting, and one-to-one meeting, and they wanted to use 3 issues to raise during this meeting, including Kashmir. And the snub is a wonderful, as far as I'm concerned. See, the compulsion of Americans. American has been saying, they tried both, carrot and also the stick. It is not working as far as Pakistan is concerned. The Pakistan, see the time of Bush and what happened in Obama, and now with the Donald Trump. Bush time, it was the greatest ally was the Pakistan, because they were fighting the war on terrorism. They required that time Pakistan, even they require today. Because Haqqani group, which is, very active, and, one soldier was killed. That time, Donald Trump has launched the biggest weapon under his command, lesser than a nuclear weapon, sub-nuclear weapon, has been in Tora Bora area. It has been just done about 20 days, 30 days back.
Right.
Now, Neha, just read one aspect, Americans still need Pakistan only because they have realized the Pakistan, Afghanistan and India triangle. The Pakistan is trying to destabilize India.
Right.
They are not allowing in Afghanistan to everything to stabilize.
Right.
Pakistan has become biggest culprit. They have realized.
All right.
But the only thing limited, things, intelligence they required on Haqqani.
Right.
Also the Taliban, which is in Afghanistan, they require the support.
Absolutely. Let me take that to Sudesh Verma. That is a very, very valid point that's been made by General Sinha, and that is something that often comes up in a lot of these discussions that we have, Mr. Verma, that, it is all very well for India to feel elated when we see a Donald Trump snubbing a Nawaz Sharif. But at the end of the day, let's not forget that America has very often been accused of duplicity, because they will pressurize Pakistan to act against terrorists who hurt American interest in Afghanistan, but we don't see America putting the same kind of pressure on Pakistan to act against terror groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed, who've been hurting India. So clearly there are those double standards even on part of America, and therefore at the end of the day, isn't it true that the battle is really for India to fight on its own?
You see, Indian diplomacy is known for its matured stand, There is no reason to get elated, there is no reason to get depressed, because diplomacy is a long-term process. But you see, if Pakistan goes the way it is going, and the way we have been able to mobilize international opinion, be sure that the snub is not enough. It has to be followed by criticism, it has to be followed by condemnation, and then, if Pakistan doesn't listen, action. We'll wait for that. And India is capable to exercise that kind of pressure in the international community that Pakistan has to behave if the international order has to exist.
All right. Of course, we'll have to wait and see what action India will consider in case we see non-compliance of this order by Pakistan, which is something that cannot be ruled out. Priyanka Chaturvedi, come in at this point. As we said, this is ultimately a battle for India to fight on its own, because for a while now we've been trying to internationally isolate Pakistan. We hear so much of this talk about Pakistan's international isolation every time there's a terror attack on our soil. So while we can feel happy that Donald Trump is not going to meet Nawaz Sharif, and we can of course draw a lot of satisfaction from the fact that the ICJ has ruled in our favor. We feel happy that Donald Trump is not going to meet Nawaz Sharif, and we can of course draw a lot of satisfaction from the fact that the ICJ has ruled in our favor and that Pakistan is being embarrassed internationally. But at the end of the day, Priyanka, we have to remember that nothing seems to shame that country. Nothing seems to change on the ground. Their brazen defiance remains unchanged, and therefore what are the options that you think are available to India, especially given the eventuality or the possibility that Pakistan may not even honor this ICJ ruling?
See, firstly, we need to be extremely clear. We shouldn't be seeing how Donald Trump ignored Nawaz Sharif and did not meet him one-on-one, denied him even the photo op. Because right now Donald Trump is in such a situation that we don't even have an ambassador of the US in India right now. So that is a priority perhaps which is not really the priority for America. We have for long treaded this path all by ourselves. We have been the victims of Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. And this is a fight we have been fighting all by ourselves, and it is within us that we find the strength to carry on. So this is something we need to understand and we need to move forward with. While we understand that Pakistan is a rogue nation, sponsor of terrorism, not just in India but across the world, what we also sometimes forget, it gets a lot of support from America at times and from China most of the time.
Undoubtedly.
So we have to safeguard our own interests. We have to safeguard our own interests. We have to ensure that we get back Kulbushan Jadhav in an honorable way and ensure that Pakistan does not go out of its way to not implement the orders coming from the ICJ.
All right.
So to hold it accountable, while it stands exposed, we need to also hold it accountable to the order coming from the ICJ.
And that really is the million-dollar question. How do you hold a country like Pakistan accountable, that has a country that has no regard for any international norm of law and justice? I've completely run out of time, but Ambassador Mukherjee, I'll give you the last word. The question really is, of course, many of our panelists seem to agree that this is a battle for India to fight alone, because Pakistan still continues to get immense support, both financial assistance and military assistance from countries like China and America. But at the end of the day, coming back to the Kulbushan Jadhav case, given Pakistan's defiance, you seem to believe it's bravado, but in case Pakistan does carry out its threat of defying this ruling. What options do you think India will be left with, considering that the path of the UN Security Council is fraught with a lot of risk, given how China has used its veto in the past?
It would depend, Neha, if the ultimate happens. It would depend on how we present our case, how the government would present its case in the Security Council. And as I said, it would be difficult, in my view, for China to veto a ruling where its own national, who's a very influential Chinese national, the Chinese judge, has also joined this unanimous verdict. How is China going to use its veto? It's going to be very complicated. And I think that the Pakistanis must have been briefed informally by the Chinese that it would be difficult for them to use the veto. And moreover, Pakistan, Neha, had taken the Atlantic case to the ICJ.
That's true,
so
and
that
lost
means
it.
That they accepted the jurisdiction of ICJ.
That's true, ma'am.
They lost that case also.
Though the problem with a country like Pakistan is there is no consistency in their stance. There are endless flip-flops. That is the trouble. All right, but I've completely run out of time. I'd like to thank all my panelists for joining me on this debate. The question really is, where does the Kulbushan Jadhav case go from here? Of course, so far the ICJ verdict has gone in India's favor, but the big question still remains, will Pakistan honor that verdict or will it defy it? And then what options can India exercise? That's the story we'll continue to track very closely. At this point, we'll slip into a short break, but don't go anywhere because